Welcome to the library. This is the Movie Codex. My name is Brian.
I'm Mandy.
And we're here to talk about the book. A book review of Insurgent.
The second installment to the Divergent trilogy.
Done by
Veronica Roth.
Yes. You know, to me, the second book was actually... I like the pace in the second book. It was definitely... It started off where the first one ended.
Mm-hmm.
And
exactly where it ended.
Where I said in the first...
On a train.
Yeah, it starts on a train. But it actually... to me, the second book, they got all the intro stuff off. It actually picks up the pace, and it's the funny thing is like all these soldiers. You got two soldiers who try to hide in the most peaceful settlement, which is Amity. Is it Amity or Amity?
Amity.
Amity. Okay.
Peace and love. Peace and love.
Picked up, and it's funny like you see how Amity does all their decisions.
Yes.
It's actually It's fun, you know, it's like, you know, with the soldiers, you know, they follow their orders from the higher commands, and it's all a bunch of huggy people and all that. It's like, I love you, you love me. Ideas are pretty much all the same.
Yep, pretty much all the same. Now, like Brian said, he really enjoyed the second installment of the Divergent series. However, I was not a huge fan. I thought it was kind of boring. Although I did appreciate what you found out about Tris and Caleb and how their family dynamics, and you definitely see the romance between Tris and Four establishing.
But at the same time, though, it was also in that relationship. It's like because they're the sort of the new leaders of the resistance, they have conflicting views at times, and it's funny like how they try to maintain the relationship, but how
they both came from different families,
but how the struggle should progress.
Yes, but you also find out more about Four's family as well.
And so, you know, yeah, it was, you know, it
especially
definitely...
his mother.
It gives you a lot of backstory about Four and his family, more about Tris and Caleb's and their family.
And why Four is the way he is.
I always love a good backstory. If the backstory is strong, I don't care how many chapters it is.
That's what I feel like second books typically are. Because if you go back to the Hunger Games, you find out, you know, with...
Catching Fire?
Catching Fire, thank you. You find out more about the reasons why they go into the Hunger Games. But in Divergent, you're finding out more about each of these families. You're finding more about Tris and Caleb's family, and you're finding out more about Four's family and where it leads them.
And, you know, their choices are based on their family dynamics,
and
especially their parents'
that their families have made in the past. Exactly. And you can definitely tell the difference, and you can see the hardship and chemistry between Four and Tris because they both have this baggage that they're learning about with their families and the decisions that their parents made for them, kind of in essence.
And in essence, but, you know, it's just funny. It's like, they always say, you know, I'm not my father, but you end up becoming that one person, your family.
Mother. Yeah.
And, you know, then, of course, you also get introduced to Candor, which is pretty much our family. They pretty much are flat out honest and tell you everything as it is.
Or they're passive aggressive.
It's one way or the other. But it was... But, you know, it's like you start of a civil war.
Yes, it is the start of the Civil War.
And when they get to Candor, but, you know, the action does pick up when they go there.
Well, it picks up with the factionless.
It does pick up.
And their leader. I'm not going to tell you who their leader is, but it takes up with the factionless and their leader and how they're trying to start a revolution.
And so it's pretty much, it's about a revolution of one faction, a civil war between the other factions. It is actually, it's a very enjoying read.
Insurgent.
I actually enjoyed it more than Divergent. I haven't read the third one, but
I have.
It was definitely a faster read. It was one of those books I actually took to work with me to read.
And for me, it was kind of the filler book, the book that gives you a little bit of background information. Not necessarily the most exciting of books, but one you have to read to move on to the third book and to understand the first book.
So I didn't feel like it was like I have to read. I enjoyed it. I mean, to me, with a good backstory and a lot more action scenes.
We're just going to have to differ on this one, Brian.
But, you know, that's what the purpose of our show is, to show difference. But
and I tend to differ from a lot of people.
But actually, thinking about it, though, when you took the test, what group were you in?
I ended up testing in Amity.
Nerds!
That was the peace and love.
Yes, since the Revenge of the Nerds sort of took a turn to the worse, I was like, who knew a bunch of nerds could actually say enough's enough?
I actually tested in another one and I ended up getting Divergent. But that wasn't like one of the original.
But I actually took... So people out there, tell us, what faction would you end up, or were you Divergent? Actually, I was actually proud.
I'm interested to know.
I am interested to know. Please comment below in our sections. Tell us what faction you belong in.
Go read the book.
It's actually a good book. It's
It's an
must
okay
have
book.
in your, I would
It's
say,
an
add
okay
to your
book.
collection.
It's a book you need to read if you want to understand the series.
Yes. So, I'm Brian.
I'm Mandy.
Give me a little bit of knowledge.
One click at a time.
See ya.